to what we're about to talk about to end the show. We're gonna just have a little brief chat about some of the movies that we've liked and maybe a few
Yeah.
more that we disliked from this year of 2024. I have seen 29 films that have come out in 2024 this year.
Okay.
Let me see here. Trembling says, these millennial writers are just recently taking over movies, but I've been dealing with these turds in comics since 2010. If you were born in the 80s, you should have to prove you don't suck before you get to write anything. You're very right about that. Yes, it happened to comic books and cartoons and video games first. And now it's trickled into films, and I think and I think everybody feels it too. There's just an underwhelmingness to going to the movies right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking more to be disappointed. I'm just expecting to be disappointed now, and it's kind of sucking the fun out of the movie. I want a refund. I want to go get my
Right.
Regal Unlimited Pass. And be like, give me my soul back. I did not know the bargain I had made. I did not
Yeah,
realize it.
I'm still toying with the idea right now to like even do like an Alamo Draft House like subscription right now with the couple that are in my area, but nowadays this is like it would just be for like Fathom or like older screenings of like older films. It wouldn't be for new stuff,
Those movies don't count.
Yeah.
You can't use those passes for those movies.
Yeah.
Just FYI. No,
Yeah.
FYI, seriously. If you have like
yeah.
you can't. They don't let you use them because Fathom is a separate company.
Yeah.
So you're paying Fathom. You're not actually paying like the theater.
Right. Yeah.
So because I had to pay out of pocket to see Lawrence of Arabia.
Hmm.
I'm gonna pay out of pocket next week to go see Rear Window. At least I'm gonna try because they're doing Fathom events for Rear Window.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you go to the movies a lot, dude, I mean, I've saved so much money. So much money. I'm also going to the theater more than I ever would normally.
Lately
But
this summer I have been quite a bit. I've ramped it back up.
yeah, I mean, I've been gone like probably once a week for the past couple months at the very least. Sometimes
Yeah.
I've gone twice.
But I try to shoot for those like more affordable like matinees when I can, like those like Tuesday evening or Thursday
Tuesday
evenings,
nights.
screenings.
Yep.
We've got one local theater here that's not too far that like charges like half the price I would pay at AMC, and I'm taking advantage of that right now.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
So
100%. Actually, that happened to me when I went to go see a Late Night with the Devil. I was going to go see it on
Yeah.
a Monday night. And they had just recently raised the ticket prices before I had that pass or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, I got to the checkout and I was like, it's going to be $18 for me to go see a fucking Shudder movie. I was like, no fucking way. I will go see this tomorrow night when it's $5.
Yeah.
I'll stay home and pull my pud. Like, I am not paying $18 to go see a fucking Shudder movie. I'll be dying because I saw In a Violent Nature on that $5 night too.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so let's start talking about some of the stuff we liked. So for me, it's been a pretty bleak year. There's a lot of 2-star movies, a lot of 3-star movies. There's only a few that have broken through at that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Why don't you go first? What's something you've enjoyed that's come out in the year of 2024?
Well, I'll start by saying this is kind of great that we are crossing over with our best and worst, because I also have seen 29 movies of 2024 as well on my list. So
There you go.
this equals out. I've already talked about, I think on the show before, Snack Shack is still my favorite of the year.
Okay.
A great coming of age film from Adam Reamer. Mostly unknown cast as well, but just a great little like summer drama comedy film that I think more people should see, and goes back to just basics. It doesn't like beat you over the head with any like with it, just like any ideas or anything that like they're doing in like modern comedies right now, and it just feels genuine and earnest, and has like heart to it.
Okay. Cool.
And
Yeah, it's like an
you know,
actual coming of age throwback. Like, kind of
Yeah.
feels like the vibe and the sentiment of the time that it's supposed to take place.
right, and I like how the relationships all the characters have too, and it's just like it will take you back to your own youth. You know, like you knew characters like this growing up, like in the
Yeah.
neighborhood,
Hmm.
during the summer when you weren't at school. It just, yeah, it goes back to basics. It sucks that in 2024, like we have to say that about like movies, but like no one's really doing that. So it's just,
Well,
yeah,
and if they are doing it, it is like noted to death. Like clearly,
yeah,
like I actually somebody brought up something. Not to bring up Alien Romulus again, but like,
yeah,
why is everybody so asexual in movies nowadays? Like people,
yeah,
there's no kisses, there's no hugs, there's no affection
yeah.
in that way. And somebody brought up a good thing. It's probably because of these intimacy consultants that they get.
You're right. Yeah,
And they're like, oh no, people like fist bump or shoulder bump now. They don't hug and stuff. Remember, it's the COVID era too, so we don't want to encourage people like touching each other.
yeah.
That's probably like a real thing. That's probably a real reason.
That's honestly a good point to bring up because post COVID, on the couple of film sets I've been on, I didn't know that those intimacy coaches were a thing. Like they were never part of like my film school experience. They were never part of any film set I had been on prior to that.
Yeah,
And
it's a very
now
recent thing.
yeah, it's definitely changed the game a little bit, and it's made everybody feel a lot more awkward. Even in films where like there's supposed to be romance or like characters like kissing or cuddling or something, it breaks a barrier that I'm like, this feels wrong. You know, this doesn't feel right. Yeah,
Well, there's a sterility to everything. Everything
yeah,
feels so. It doesn't feel real. It
yeah,
doesn't feel like lived in. I mean, you still get that a little bit, like I suppose with like indies or trying. They'll still be a little bit more edgy, I suppose, with that kind
sure,
of stuff. But generally, to explore it in a very degenerate way,
yeah,
like I'll bring up my first movie, Kinds of Kindness.
okay, yeah,
Kinds, like I said, guys, been a rough year, so we're going off of what we got. Kinds of Kindness is Yorgos Lanthimos' new movie. Oh
all
wait,
right,
I'm fucking this up. Hold on, I haven't done this in a couple weeks. Kinds of Kindness, Yorgos Lanthimos' new movie. It's an anthology movie. It stars Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, and Willem Dafoe, and obviously some other people too. Kind of examining the nature of love and kindness and relationships and the different permutations in Yorgos Lanthimos fashion. I liked this way, way more than I liked Poor Things. I thought it was a much better movie than Poor Things. It kind of reminded me a lot of The Lobster.
okay,
Kind of tonally, kind of goes back to that a little bit. But it wants to explore relationships and sexuality in the most degenerate way possible. Like it's just about like hedonism and it doesn't really have much to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just kind of a thing that's out
yeah,
there in the world, and we're gonna kind of explore it a little bit. It's very like non-judgmental about that, I suppose. But it's got some great performances. It's definitely worth your time if you like Yorgos Lanthimos. If you like him,
yeah.
I'd check it out.
I was gonna say I was not wowed by Poor Things at all. In fact, I think the writing in that film is pretty bad on the same level as like
Oh, it's
Barbie
so
that year.
Oh, it's
Uh,
cringe.
but I was worried that like this new one was going to be very derivative of that. But it sounds like it's going back to like some of his like basic roots again with like yeah like The Lobster or something, which I did enjoy a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got that kind of absurdist comedy. It's like
Yeah,
that style
yeah,
of his absurdist comedy. Where Poor Things is also, I suppose, kind of like that, but it's like he just went. It's almost like an anti-comedy. It's like, how obnoxious can we make this?
yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
it's like an endurance test. Like, can you sit through this movie?
sure.
Which might be part of its intention. I don't know. Maybe that's in the design of the movie, but.
It just felt like somebody on Tumblr wrote the script. That's just like how I came out of it. I'm like, okay. So in some respect, I was laughing a lot at it, but at the same time, like this is so, yeah, this is so retardedly written. I can't like, really buy it.
Well, it's just so facile. It's just a
Yeah.
simplistic view of like human beings and relationships and sex. And I'm not even going to say that Kinds of Kindness actually does a much better job. It just does it in a more interesting, entertaining way.
Yeah.
There's an aggressiveness to Poor Things in the way that it's made that I found very unpleasant
Okay.
and just kind of hurt my eyes to watch in a certain way. And I hated every character and I hated everything I was watching. I just could not get into it. I'll give it a revisit someday, but I don't know when that's going to be. All right, what's your next one?
I'll put up another one here that I just watched the other week. The Promised Land, um, directed by Nikolai Arcel, starring Mads Mikkelsen and a lot of other Danish and German actors I don't know. um,
Okay.
but it's a good little period piece in the 1700s where an ex-military guy decides to basically like cultivate like a bunch of land on somebody else's like a lord's property, and there's like an ongoing feud between them both because he sees potential in like growing crops and making it happen out there and thriving and building a family and living off the land, setting a life for himself.
Okay.
But those higher up classist royals, they're just always getting in his way and whatnot. But
Damn it.
it's a really solid movie. I think
It looks great.
it never gets too over the top. Like there's like moments where you think it's gonna get like grisly and violent and things like that, but it never really goes there. Like I was worried it was gonna get like to like the tone of like something like The Patriot, which I do like, but it is like a completely different kind of like tone.
Total, yeah, a different kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, this was honestly really solid, and like there is such a cold, lonely, isolated I don't know, like just like sort of vibe that it really gives off that yeah, I don't know. The Danish are just really good at doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even in their comedies. So yeah.
I mean, I love Mads Mikkelsen, so I'll definitely give it a shot.
Yeah.
I think it's on Hulu right now. If anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah.
The guy who directed this wrote The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the screenplay for the original one.
Yeah, and I think he's also attached to the Dark Tower.
Oh, dude,
movie.
no, he directed the Dark Tower.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, see, this is what they do to these guys. They get these foreign directors to be like, oh, you had like a really good indie movie.
Yeah.
How would you like to come and direct this studio nightmare?
Every time.
Every goddamn time, dude. All right, I'll definitely put that one on my list.
Yeah.
Have to check that one out. The next movie I got that I'll bring up is Challengers.
Okay. That's on mine too. It's up there for me.
Challengers, I think, is a incredibly well-made movie about some of the most insufferable people to ever live. It does suffer from a lot of the problems that I think modern movies make, except that it is done in such a tour de force fashion from the director's standpoint and the way it was put together that I can't help but respect it. Like, it is such a well-made, tight little movie.
Yeah. Well, even the polyamorous sexual competition connectivity, it's done in a way more sincere manner, I would say, than most movies that would try to attempt something like this.
Yeah, it definitely
whether you like it
tries
or
to,
not, yeah.
But I the thing with things like this though, it's like it's okay to pass judgment on the fact that Zendaya like wants to cheat on her husband, and it won't do it. And it just won't do it. It just won't do it. It's just like, no, this is just the nature of their relationship. This is they'll forever be like this, kind of in almost like a mythic fairy tale way.
Yeah.
Where I was like, but like I said, it is. I mean, they shot the shit out of this movie. It is a great looking fucking movie. And some of the sequences are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's got and even though it's over 2 hours long, but you do not feel that length. Like it is a very snappy, zippy, well paced experience.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite from the director.
Yeah, I got to go back to a couple of his. I would say it's definitely his most technically sophisticated, for sure.
Oh, I never saw Bones and All. I never saw Bones. That's not Timothy Chalamet.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I liked
bad?
it. Yeah.
But I don't mind his Suspiria either.
Yeah.
Call Me by Your Name. It was just okay, whatever. It's
There's little things in that movie though where I'm just like
a coded creep masterpiece.
yeah.
It's because like Timothy Chalamet reads as like a 14-year-old boy, and there's no getting around that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he was cast. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just my opinion. Or what's your next one?
What else have I got here right now? Oh, I rewatched it because I'd forgotten I'd seen it. I feel bad, even though I did really like it. Uh, it's on Shutter right now. Exuma, the South
Exuma.
Korean slash part Japanese horror film that
Okay.
came out earlier this year. After tracing the origin of a disturbing supernatural affliction to a wealthy family's ancestral gravesite, a team of paranormal experts find the remains of a Japanese spirit. Is the essential plot that is buried in a South Korean cliff,
Okay.
and it's solid. I was really just taken aback by it. Just kind of goes back to just I don't know, like supernatural fun and basics. Troy Sick, who's probably most famous for Old Boy, he's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean I don't have like a ton of like great things to say other than that just it didn't feel like
Just a solid movie.
yeah, it just didn't have a stereotypical or just annoying plot or anything. Like all the characters were very intelligent and like you're with them the entire way and they're trying to all work together to put a stop to the spirit, you know. And I
Yeah.
like that kind of
Oh, cool.
dynamic.
It definitely looks like something right up my alley. It kind of, I know it's not like a one-to-one comparison, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of The Wailing from a couple of
It's
years ago.
that's a good one to compare it to. Honestly, it could make a good double feature.
Good
I
double
would say,
feature, yeah.
but the Wailing is a little bit more. Definitely goes in a lot of different directions compared to this one, but they definitely tonally
Well,
fit
just
together. Yeah,
the
yeah,
general conceit of like trying to exorcise a ghost or
yeah.
a witch or a
Right,
demon or something, right?
right.
My next movie I will bring up is The Bike Riders.
Okay, it's on mine
Uh,
too.
the
Yeah,
The Bike Riders is actually streaming on Peacock now, but I saw it when it came out in the theater. I really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely a little flawed. It's got some. It has
yeah,
has a problem with some of its thematic coherence, but I think overall, the good outweighs the bad with this movie,
true.
and it's made in the tradition of kind of '60s biker hangout movies.
Hmm.
It's done in kind of a vignette style where we kind of get to experience a vertical slice of this lifestyle and how it changes. I really loved that it was kind of about generational passing the torch, how one generation affects the other, how that might be a bad thing sometimes. Like your influences on the generation that's coming up behind you is important.
Hmm.
Because as much as these people are like they're like the noble warrior bikers,
Yeah.
they have provided the environment to have psychopaths basically start taking over, and
Yes.
it's kind of their own fault. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and Tom Hardy is phenomenal as he often is.
Yeah.
Austin Butler is out of the newer crop of actors that have come up, Austin Butler has definitely been one I've enjoyed a lot of his
Sure.
work lately. I think the weak link is Jodie Comer. She is a little caricature more than I think she's a little outclassed by the rest of the cast, honestly, and it's a little distracting. I think it was a mistake to make her the POV, like the narration. I
Her,
thought it
her,
should have been one of their kids.
yeah. I mean, her fascination with them definitely like felt a little forced in some ways. Yeah, I would have liked somebody that was a little bit more youthful or like looking
Well,
up.
just
Yeah.
because the story is about a generational shift.
Yeah.
That's what the story ends up being about. That's when it comes together at the end and what
Yeah.
happens to Tom Hardy's character, etc. So wouldn't it make sense if this was the POV of like lessons learned by the next generation?
Yeah.
Like his daughter like Austin Butler's daughter
Hmm.
telling the story of her father.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyways, but that's just my opinion, but
I'm with you though too, like with the theming of like a group of guys that are not like fully grasping like the weight of their responsibility and coming to terms with that, or in however way that with all the hiccups. But it's also a really good just hangout movie as well. Like it's
Mhm.
marketed as like an action thriller, and it's not
It's
really
not
that
at
at
all.
all. Yeah,
No.
and that's not something. What's the director's name? Jeff
Uh
Nichols,
Jeff Nichols.
who I've worked with from afar
Oh, cool.
on one of his movies. What was it? I think it was
The
Loving.
Midnight's Loving. Yep.
Yeah, Loving that they shot in Richmond, Virginia. I was part of the casting for that.
Oh, cool.
You know, he's known for not. I guess maybe Mud is like the exception, but typically he's not that kind of director. Like he likes telling these more Western,
personal allegorical,
stories.
personal stories. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember back in the day when I first saw Take Shelter. I loved it. I was I was so enamored with that movie and what's his name's performance. What the fuck's his name? Michael Shannon. Him and Michael Shannon are good buddies, and I actually really liked him in Midnight Special as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I mean, that movie definitely has some weaknesses, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
As being kind of a, it's almost like an answer to Spielberg's Encounters of a Third Kind, in the sense where it's like this family-rooted alien experience rather than an excuse to get away from your family.
Right.
So yeah,
but it never does anything over the top with the visuals or anything. It keeps it it makes it very realistic, you know, and that's what he's really good at. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of like something of a chase movie.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of trying to run away from basically the government, this agency. Austin in the chat says, big year for Austins. I agree. Big year for Austins indeed. What's your next one?
I'll mention one. I don't think I brought it up on any of the shows, but one I thought, you know what, I just kicked back and went with it, and I was just having a good time. It may not be the greatest or anything like that, but Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F on Netflix right now, I had a lot of fun with.
Did you really?
I did.
You really?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, I mean it's not like perfect by any means. I see that you gave it 1.5 stars. So
yes, I was not too keen on it. I know a lot of people liked it. I just didn't like it. I just thought it was kind of a what did I write? A dour, depressing, sad slog. It's directed like it's a pilot for some new Netflix show. Most of the cinematography is flat and uninteresting, a far cry from the days of Tony Scott or Martin Brest, for that matter. Just like most of the more recent Legacy sequels, it's about 20 years too late to feel like it makes any sense, etc. You know what I mean?
I will give you some of that credit in terms of just the filmmaking. Like, I knew that going into it that they were not going to have that filmic grit that they had in the 80s or the 90s even.
Yeah, but that's what makes those movies. Like those movies, I mean, they're, you know, Eddie Murphy's Eddie Murphy, and he's generally pretty entertaining. But he's like I don't know. And he's wearing like the Axel Foley costume.
Yeah.
That always bothers me in these movies. Like, he's got a costume and he's like 62 years old wearing the costume. Come on.
Well, that's what lends to the humor for me. I mean, I don't think he really shows I don't think that really shows his age as much, to be honest. I mean, yeah, wearing the costume a little bit.
Listen, black don't crack, buddy. He looks good.
Yeah,
he looks good for his age.
He's still pretty fly. The rest of the cast, not so much, but and also, okay, I will say,
Judge Reinhold looks like they dragged him out of a lake. He's all like bloated and shit.
He was looking rough, yeah,
dude. And I was like, oh, these guys are working a beat. I'm like, motherfucker, these dudes aren't cops anymore.
Yeah.
It's 2024. I mean, I know. Listen, I understand that's like some wild nitpicky shit. It's a Beverly Hills Cop movie. I get it. Like, you can, but I don't know, man. I wasn't into it.
Now, whoever was behind it, though, I wonder if any of them were fans of Ronnie Cox from at least the original first two. That dude is still working. He's still a working musician. He's still acting. He's doing voice acting and whatnot. I don't know why they couldn't pull him out of like hiding for a quick cameo, but I guess he wasn't going to come back for this.
No, he's the only one that read the script.
Yeah.
But no, I understand. I get it. Like, I do get what people enjoyed about it. I couldn't find my way there. In fact, I didn't even finish it. I had like 15 minutes left and I just fell asleep, and then I never went back.
Yeah. I embrace it. Just, it's stupid fun, and that's how I kind of treat it.
And that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Not everything has to be some sort of cinematic masterpiece to enjoy. I like a lot of dumb shit. Trust me, I like a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
Treblik says, I would have liked Axel F if they didn't have the stupid estranged daughter plot that took up the majority of the movie and doesn't fit. Yeah,
Sure.
I got to tell you, like the everybody having to be your daughter now, getting a little old.
Yeah.
Signal Intrusion says, fuck 'em, Ronnie Cox. That's right.
Yeah.
I'll bring up my populist garbage. Dune Part 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Dune Part 2. In fact, out of 2024, of what I've seen of movies that have come out in 2024, it's probably the one I enjoyed the most in the theater watching. I got to see it in IMAX with a bunch of captive Dune fans. And I think it's kind of like Lawrence of Arabia in the way where it's like the scope and the spectacle and the scale and the theatrical experience mattered so much to how I feel about the movie that watching it at home definitely diminishes that 100%.
Oh yeah.
But I just think it's an impressive feat, and I like to see a big, expensive sci-fi movie that actually like doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Like, because whether or not you love these movies or whatever, like they work, they make sense. Like I understand like all the character motivations, their internal life. They take the time to build these characters up. It ends up being that Dune Part 1. I kind of wish they didn't. Oh no, wait. I'm glad that they split them into two movies because I think Denis Villeneuve just had a better handle on how to make a Dune movie his second go.
Yes. Yeah.
I just think he did.
It was almost like there was like a little bit of like a test audience sort of response where he's like, okay, that didn't work. I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to fix these
And also,
little things.
he got all the table setting out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we got to go to the fun parts of the kind of the adventure and the war and like and Paul Atreides kind of rising through the ranks and becoming the Muad'Dib.
Sure.
And I think even some of the stuff that they changed adaptation wise, I was kind of okay with. I know a lot of people aren't. The Zendaya stuff, I hear everybody. It just didn't bother me enough to matter to me. I just didn't care. It didn't bother me that much. And they did that to totally appeal to a modern sensibility. Like, well, Zendaya is supposed to be the strong warrior queen. She would never think this is okay. She wouldn't be a ride or die for Paul. He's going to have to prove himself to her, which is not what happens in the books, like at all. She is a dedicated waifu.
Yeah. Through and through to the end. No, there were moments. I mean, I think I like how it's on par with a lot of Hollywood films of its kind, but it does things very differently. It almost has like a biblical epic touch to it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That you just don't see as often. And I think Denis Villeneuve had like a different cinematographer for this one. But just the way they shoot those action scenes too. There's no shaky cam. There's nothing that's like stilted or weird. It feels like every frame feels like it's important in some way.
Yeah, and they're big and they're epic and they're like every frame is just something to like whoa, like this is fucking crazy. Dude, when I was sitting in the theater and Fade Rotha, I've said this like 5 times on this show. Fade Rotha comes into the Coliseum and that fucking Zimmer score, like I was so dude, the hair stood up on my hands. I was like, oh my god, that's a fucking movie right there, dude. Holy shit. Trebling says some stuff in Dune 2 was worse than the book and some was better. Having Paul be the one that kills Baron instead of his little sister was a good decision. I'm glad they just avoided the little sister part entirely. They're holding her off until Dune Messiah, I assume. Yeah, that's Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
She shows up in a vision that Paul has at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie.
And that's the other thing. I wish I had read the books to help inform the movies a little bit more, so I didn't have like the closest connection to the films as much as they were encapsulating something that I do find very inventive and cool just from a filmmaking standpoint. But I need to go and actually read those at some point. So.
Well, the problem that a lot of people have with Villeneuve's take on Dune is that he's removed a lot of the weird shit. Yeah. He's taken a lot of the really fantasy stuff out of it and has kind of been more on like the grounded version of Dune. And it's going to be interesting to see how he reconciles that with Dune Messiah. which is apparently is happening, and I think they're going into production next summer. So it's actually going to be out a lot sooner than he thought it was going to come out, because he was like, "Man, I need to go make a small movie after doing these Dune movies back to back." But they're backing up the money truck.
That might see some hefty competition with Passion of the Christ 2 Resurrection or something.
Oh,
See
dude,
how
that would
that
be
goes.
sweet.
Yeah.
All right, what's your next one?
Yeah, here, let me pull it back up. Maybe I'll do one of the bad ones.
Yeah, shoot me a bad one.
Let's see here. So, okay, my worst right now, at least at the bottom, ranked, is Drive-Away Dolls, directed by
Oh
Ethan
my
Cohen.
god, dude, I couldn't make it through it.
I was like fuming
I was
when I saw
shocked.
that in the theater. Yeah, by how just obnoxious, like the whole way through. I didn't like anybody. in
Dude, it
this.
was
No-
like somebody
yeah,
made a fake Coen Brothers movie.
yeah,
And you know what? You know what it showed me? That Ethan Cohen is definitely the one behind the period of time when they were doing like Intolerable Cruelty
yeah,
and shit like that. I was like, oh, that was definitely you.
yeah.
Because holy shit.
I think my first initial letterbox review was it was one sentence. I was like, the Coen Brothers need to tell their wives to knock it off or something like that.
They are getting back together.
Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah, they got
Co-
that horror movie coming out.
Because I'm sure Joel was just like, Ethan, I saw Drive-Away Dolls. You're really fucking up our name here, pal.
Yeah,
Dude, I was crazy. I was shocked by how like amateur it was.
yeah,
It's really shot. It was just weird, shoddy, cheap.
There were points
bad
like,
movie.
I was like, did Elizabeth Banks or somebody direct this? Like, does not feel
Oh
like a
my
Coen
God.
Brothers like movie at all. Like, what's going
And
on?
also, it has this weird thing, and this is like the male ally thing, where all female characters have to be like lesbians.
Yeah,
Like they have like there's a male directors of a certain age. They just like have a fascination with lesbians. There's a lot of fetishization of like lesbians, and this movie has that in spades.
but they're not even like, and this is like a Hollywood thing. They're not even like realistic lesbians. Like,
No,
they're just like caricatures.
Which is like that's like
yeah.
that's the Coen Brothers things. But I think what Joel obviously offers is like the groundedness between the
Yeah.
two of them, and Ethan's more of the fantastical one. And when they work together, they can find a happy medium between those two kind of impulses.
Yeah.
But dude, I couldn't believe that shit. I was watching it with my wife. And like, my wife she's kind of a normie movie watcher. And she was like, do we have to finish this? And I was like, you know what? No, we don't. Good call,
Yeah.
my love. Good call. Trebek says, yeah, he is sticking with Herbert's original aesthetic view that Herbert just abandoned by the third book and goes full in with the fourth one that was Paul was and would have been a messiah. And the son is this ruthless, amoral version of what Paul was meant to be. Yeah, I'm actually still working my way through the books. I'm like halfway through Children of Dune. I haven't gotten back to it because I've been reading so much other stuff. What is one that I disliked? Let's go with Argyle. Argyle is the new Matthew Vaughn flick. And
I missed out on this one, but
oh
yeah.
my god, it's atrocious. There's actually, I do have a review up on the channel if anybody wants to go check that out. So I'll be brief here, but it's just like a mess. It is like Matthew Vaughn, the culmination of all of his worst impulses as a filmmaker, like poured into one movie. I don't think they shot on a single practical location the entire time. Anytime they're outside, they're clearly in like the volume or a green screen or something. He apparently got Apple to buy it for $200 million.
That was the same problem with last year's Indiana Jones film too. It's just always a green screen, always in front of some sort of studio background, and they're putting these things in a machine now, Sean. I don't like it.
Oh, they're just so lifeless, and they're not
Yeah,
fun. And like the
Yeah.
sequences are like uninspired and cartoony. So
Yeah.
you have like no connection to them, and they don't feel substantial. Trellick says Matthew Vaughn truly is the dumber Guy Ritchie. Yeah, he truly
Yeah,
is.
at this point,
he truly
yeah.
fucking is. And I used to kind of liked Matthew Vaughn just fine. I like Layer Cake. Uh, when the first Kick-Ass came out, it was kind of novel at the time.
Sure.
I don't think it's aged very well, but yeah, yeah.
I,
So
I,
I'll just leave it there with Argyle. Argyle's just not
yeah.
good. Just avoid it.
Let me see what else I can pull up here. This was one that's kind of in the middle of my list. Was not one I was like really taken aback by or disliked, but was just very middle of the road. Richard Linklater's Hitman on Netflix right now.
I did
Uh,
not get around to that one, but I had meant to watch it, but because it's a Netflix movie, it just
mhm.
disappears. You just never
Yeah,
hear about it again.
I think he's got some sort of like Netflix deal where I think that's
Yeah,
been
he
like a couple
does.
of his last few entries where they just go right to Netflix and
Because I like the last one he did was the Apollo 11 and a half or whatever it was.
yeah, yeah,
The one that's the rotoscoped one he did
right.
about like his basically the story of his childhood about his dad worked at NASA and shit.
Yeah, yeah. It was
That
that
was pretty good. That was
it was
pretty
that
good.
same sort of like vector style Scanner Darkly animation.
Scanner Darkly and the one before it, Something Life.
Yeah, yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The other one that is all vignettes.
Right, right.
But yeah, it's that same style, and I thought it was pretty good. It's like it was kind of a coming of age story. Like, what was it like to be alive at that time? It has lots of like kind of jokes about like your dad would drink a beer in the car. There's ashtrays all over the place. Just things like little touches like that,
Sure.
and these kids just kind of. It's about like this summer that there's going to be a launch.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this Hitman movie, I would say it's definitely a performance-driven film. The plot kind of goes in different areas where you're just like, even though it's based on a true story or inspired by a true story, it just doesn't feel quite like it's trying to take on this kind of film noir sort of like take. There is a femme fatale sort of character in there, and it's about a guy who's like basically working as a professor by day and then like as a fake hitman by night, or interviewing other people to like help them out, I guess. Like, I need this guy taken out, and like, well, I'm your guy, I'm gonna get some money out of you. And
Yeah.
but he's working with the police, and so it's basically just like a weird kind of like in between role, and that stuff is pretty funny. But it just
Okay.
I think where it falls short is like the romance plot and a certain character. But it's still it's very Linklater still. I think he's definitely
Okay.
trying to definitely this felt like if Linklater was doing something that like Soderbergh would do, and just kind of like pioneering into a different territory a little bit, you
Well,
know.
it's kind of like what he did when he did the because I saw the trailer for it and the tone reminded me a little bit of Bernie. And I
Yeah,
know
a little bit.
it's not
Yeah.
exactly like Bernie because it has like the fake docudrama stuff in Bernie.
Yeah, yeah.
But Bernie is kind of a movie that I could see somebody like a Soderbergh doing.
Sure. Sure.
It's got that same kind of feel to it, and I liked Bernie, so I
Yeah.
definitely want to check it out. I heard mixed things about it, but since you say it's worth the time, I'll definitely check it out. Trembling says, "Do they make this guy not get the girl again? Does Glenn Powell get to smooch the girl?"
There's some smooching. There's a little
Okay,
bit of that in there.
nice,
There's
nice.
Richard Linklater has not lost his touch there, at least. He
Yeah,
knows that romance still needs to thrive.
it still needs to be in the goddamn movie.
Yeah.
One of my middle of the road ones would be Unfrosted. The
Oh, the Seinfeld.
and a lot of people
Yeah.
really hated this movie. It did not work for most people. I
Right.
thought, and I could tell you that this must have been a mess that they cobbled together what they could. But I think as a joke factory, I think the jokes worked more often than not, and that's kind of what I was looking for with it. So I didn't really care that it's stupid. Like, it just didn't bother me,
Yeah.
and so I ended up kind of enjoying it more than I thought I would. Maybe it's because I had no expectations for it or whatever, but I don't know. I grew up watching Seinfeld too, so I'm kind of in the bag for this kind of thing as well. I thought the cast was mostly pretty good. It's the best use of what's her name, Amy Schumer, I've ever seen in a movie. She gets to play kind of this stereotypical evil business lady, and worked very well. It's the funniest thing she's done maybe ever.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't really have much to say about it beyond that.
Was Jerry Seinfeld like was he trying to get this movie made for like many years and he just
I think
now
I think the idea had been around for a while. I think he had the idea for like the concept
yeah.
for a while, and then he's just like, he's a very successful person, dude. He doesn't have to do anything that he doesn't want to do.
Right.
And I think once driving in cars, getting coffee with comedians, once that became a Netflix thing, because it used to be on Sony's free streamer Crackle. That's where that actually first was. And then Netflix bought it. And then I think he has some sort of development deal with Netflix. And obviously he got a ton of money when Netflix put Seinfeld on there. They paid through the teeth for that. Like it's like with Friends when they pay like $1 billion to be able to stream Friends for like 4 years. Crazy shit. Trevor says you should have had Michael Richards as the guy who wants a black Sambo mascot for Pop-Tarts. If he had any courage, he would have. Yes, he totally would have. That would have been a great meta joke.
Sure.
All right, what's your next one?
I'll one that we both have watched, and I think we both have similar opinions on, even though I think it still has some issues, and I'm curious where it's going to go further on. But Horizon: An American Saga, Chapter 1, I ended up really liking. Got to support my Utah filmmakers.
Hell yeah, there you go,
fam out there. Yeah. No, honestly, like I thought Kevin Costner like came in. I guess with like a little bit of a grudge with just how things were going with Yellowstone, and was like, you know what, I'm just gonna come back in with a vengeance and just make my epic, And I like this approach that he's like full on, not committed to doing a miniseries necessarily, but just keeping it at the cinemas,
Yeah, because it's a particular thing. He wants event cinema, right?
Yeah.
We don't have event cinema. We don't have movies that like everybody goes to see anymore. I mean, it is in very much in the style of like a 90s Western miniseries. It definitely felt like that. Like it has a very Lonesome Dove kind of vibe to it. Because it is a little corny. It's very earnest. But I kind of like that. I like that it kind of embraced that and just went with it. And that there are like decent people amongst this carnage of everything that's happening with Western expansion and Manifest Destiny. I mean, it's a little woke. People are going to like that or they're not, whatever. But I thought more often than not, it worked. And I was really looking forward to Chapter 2. I was supposed to be seeing Chapter 2 this weekend.
Yeah.
It was supposed to, IMDb still has this poster up.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, August 16th. No, it's not.
Yeah.
I hope it finds a wider audience though, and and I'm glad that he at least has the first 2 parts shot, which I think he might be able to close it with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be a 4-part series.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he ever gets to finish that. I really hope he does, because it's such a cool, ambitious thing, and it hasn't been done in a while. Like kind of a Western on this kind of scale and scope.
Sure.
With this many characters, because it's a great giant ensemble. It's got every actor you've ever heard of makes an appearance in it, and it's just kind of a lot of fun in that way. In the same way that those old miniseries were kind of fun. Yep. It was kind of fun to go see, like, it's Robert Duvall and fucking Tommy Lee Jones. Awesome.
Yeah, it still it has that just classic feel. I mean, it goes back to like films like even like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or something like that, like where it's just like, we're going to make the most out of these locations, and we're going to give you like that old school gritty Western look again.
Yeah.
And have fun with it as well. I do agree it does have like some of the woke elements, and I don't think Kevin Costner's ever been propped up really as like, oh, he's like one of these like Hollywood conservatives. I'm like, I don't think he really is. No. I think he just gets that label because of
he's he's a man of a generation that is clearly not of the current moment.
Yeah,
and that is like, and that's enough for people to think that he's like a hard ass or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they kind of bought into which Yellowstone is a very woke show. I don't understand why it's so popular on the right. It's like got the girl bosses. It's got Native American, guilt.
Sure.
I guess we'll call it white man's guilt for what happened to Native Americans, etc. It's a very trashy show. It's like watching Dallas. It's like the modern version of Dallas.
Yeah.
Now that he's not on the show, I'll never watch it again. So
Yeah.
I watched it on a lark. I was like, you know what? I've always heard about this Yellowstone show. I'm going to check it out. It was like a year ago or so, maybe a couple years ago. And then me and my wife end up just like barreling through to like current season. And we were just goofing on the show the whole time. We would just like look forward to watching it and basically doing like Mystery Science Theater 3000. That's kind of what we did through the whole show because it's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But in a trashy, entertaining way. Like I get why people like it because it's very soap opera, high quality soap opera.
Part of it is just like, what's his name? Tyler Sheridan. He just went like so far off the mark, like out of the blue. Like he had a few good films like leading up to that, and then I don't know what happened. Like it just like the industry just like something clicked in his brain, and he just like I don't know, just doubled down into some other.
He became a studio guy. He became a franchise guy, and now he's the shepherd of the Yellowstone franchise. I mean, look at all the spin-offs that they do, all that kind of shit. Because he did Wind River,
Hell or High Water,
Hell or High Water,
which were good. I liked those movies. Yeah,
both good movies. Yeah,
yeah,
and they have like a tone. They feel grounded. They feel kind of real. Whereas Yellowstone is like literally, it's a soap opera.
Yeah,
it is. It's a soap opera for dudes, and that they can watch with their wives.
Right.
And that's the magic of something like that. I saw The Fall Guy.
Oh yeah, I avoided this one. I didn't care.
The Fall Guy.
Yeah.
Listen, dude, it's like big studio movie star driven fare. It's probably better than it has any right to be, but it's also is exactly what it is. Like, you're not going to get anything. It actually kind of it fucks it up because Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt have like no chemistry, and it's kind of integral to making a movie like this work because it's kind of got like a Romancing of the Stone kind of vibe to it. Like that's what they're going for, and it never quite gets there. But there's some cool stunts. There's some cool action. It's an ode to stuntmen. I never watched the show that it was based off of. It's like a movie version of a show with Lee Majors from back in the day. I never watched it, so I don't have any reverence for it or know anything about it. I just watched it because my wife wanted to watch it. I'll be real with you. Sometimes, listen, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, okay? Yeah. Sometimes that means you're watching The Fall Guy.
I didn't realize until recently that it was based on a 90s show. There was actually some base for it. When it came out, so I guess there's like a small fan base for that because it
bombed.
It.
It bombed so hard they put it on streaming like 2 weeks after it hit theaters.
Yeah,
which is that's the thing they do now, which is crazy to me. But yeah, it bombed hard, and it's because I think it just feels like entertainment product, and I think people sense that, and it's kind of just shallow. And it is what it is. Like, it's not the worst. It's out of all of these kinds of movies that I've seen lately, it's probably on the top of the pile as far as these kind of generic, soulless, studio, whatever, populist movies. Yeah. It's one of the better ones. Trembling says, I like The Fall Guy, dumb action comedy, and feels a bit like Shane Black. Ryan Gosling is who makes it enjoyable to me mostly. Yeah, Ryan Gosling's great. Like, he really is good in it. I mean, Ryan Gosling's pretty good in most of what he's in. And he's got great comedic timing, and he's got great physicality, and he puts it to good use in The Fall Guy, 100%. It's just kind of a ephemeral. Like I watched it when it came out, and I don't really remember much about it. Like I just kind of have a sense memory of how I felt about it, but I don't remember many particular things about it. All right, well, let's do a couple more.
I've got another terrible one here that I don't think most people I know have seen. Maybe a couple people. Our boy Walter on Twitter, he's seen it, and he's probably got the same sort of sentiment that I have. It's a movie called Miller's Girl on Netflix.
Miller's Girl,
starring Martin Freeman and our girl Jenna Ortega.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I've heard of this. I didn't watch it though.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume it's based on one of these like C-list pulpy like romance novels because that's how it definitely felt in terms of just the tone and the narration given. But basically, it's about a young writer at like a prestigious school who falls for her teacher, and her teacher is like secretly falling for her as well, but like she's underage, and then they're kind of playing
Oh,
into that whole thing. But it's
yes,
done
yeah,
in such a like not even in like a an untasteful way, but just like not. I mean, it just it feels like it's just a weird sexual fantasy the whole way through. Um, and in the end, it's like they still kind of play, even though like Martin Freeman, his character is doing to the best of his ability to kind of resist like any sort of temptation. He's still propped up as the villain through and through, and it's just like okay,
yeah,
in
because of
that kind of
the
like situation,
yes, which I mean, he is like in reality, like you are. If
Yeah.
you're the adult, like you are the
Yeah.
responsible party. Like a teenage girl is going to act like a teenage girl, and it's
Right.
incumbent upon you to
Yeah.
ignore that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'll probably skip it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've seen 100 movies like this about this exact topic. Everybody wants to be fucking Lolita.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. It's shot like a Hallmark Lifetime movie. Yeah, just not worth anybody's time. It's just bad. That's what it feels like essentially. Um, yeah.
I saw the new Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. That
I'm
movie is
sorry.
it's a stinker.
Yeah.
It's a stinker, everybody. It's not good. I like it's just weird what they've done with Ghostbusters, and
Mhm.
this was like this is something I would compare something like the Fall Guy to, like the big populous studio stuff, right? Like the
Yeah.
Fall Guy is much better than Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire in terms of just being kind of a turn your brain off entertainment situation. Um, yeah, it's kind of incoherent. It has actually a very similar problem that Trap has, which is it doesn't trust the family dynamic and lean into that. Like it's clearly like coded to,
Mhm.
like it's clearly set up to do that, and then just doesn't do it because it's like not the plot doesn't need it. They don't care about these characters. They just care about getting it to the end of the movie, like the plot.
Who does Patton Oswalt play in this movie? I didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah, no, he comes in to play the new Dan Aykroyd.
Okay.
But Dan Aykroyd's in the movie also has a scene where he just plays Dan Aykroyd like at the spooky bookstore giving exposition, and then they have another scene where Patton Oswalt does the same thing. It's
Oh,
weird. It's
it's
not
just,
good.
it's just another example of that that yeah, nerd culture commentary like, "Oh, I'll be the spokesman for this," or yeah, like I'll yeah,
It's not good.
reference. Yeah, yeah.
It's not good. That's all I'm gonna say. And I've never seen a more disengaged Bill Murray in my entire life. The dude did not want to be there at all. Did not care to be there. Trembling asks, is Jenna Ortega's career just being the gothy Latino jailbait for as long as it's believable? Yeah, probably. I mean, she's still got a couple years left. She still looks like she's fucking 14.
Yeah, yeah.
That's another thing. Like, in Alien Romulus had this too. Like, the cast looked like they were so young. Like, they look like they're children. Like the two, like especially like the girls, like the main, like Kaylee Spaney or whatever her name is. She looks like she's 12 years old, which made the whole thing even more unbelievable to me. But anyways,
It's because they're injecting this next generation with like weird drugs and putting things in the food to make everybody look younger than they did back in 1979 or whatever.
so it's the preservatives, dude. We're
Yeah,
literally being preserved from the inside out.
yeah.
I'll just rapid fire a couple. Lisa Frankenstein, the new Diablo Cody joint.
Hmm.
If I was a teenage girl, I probably would have enjoyed it. I think it's actually not that bad relative to these kinds of movies, but it's clearly not. I'm not the target audience for it, and so for me, it's just like, oh, it's fine. It's like whatever. It's got a couple fun jokes in it, and there's a couple interesting sequences, and a clever twist on the Frankenstein's monster thing.
Yeah.
Love Lies Bleeding. I really love the look of that movie.
Right.
I really like the way it's shot. Really enjoyed the performance of not Kirsten Stewart, the other girl, the other woman that's in it. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's kind of a newer actress. She really commits to her role and really goes for it. But it's just another one of these kind of men are the scum of the fucking earth. Another movie about some about lesbians. I mean, it's so retarded because like part of the movie is like about bodybuilders,
Yeah.
and one of the characters is a female bodybuilder, and she's talking to Ed Harris, and it's like the most on the nose dialogue. He's like looking at her, and he's like, "I bet you think you're strong, huh? I bet you think you're strong because of that body, huh?" And he's like, "This is power," and then he pulls out a gun and shoots it near her, and he's like, "This is real power," because all the men are like sniveling weasels, like. And it's just tired. It's just a tiresome thing.
Yeah,
and also,
yeah.
I have never been into Kirsten Stewart, and I don't believe people when they say, "Oh, she's really maturing into a good actress." No, she's not.
Oh no, I don't even think she's a genuine person these days at all.
Yeah, she's. Yeah, she's she's on her way to becoming the new Elliot Page.
Yeah.
Give her a couple years, dude.
Yes.
But it's a movie that I kind of recognize that, and it's something because I've been thinking about it while I'm working on my own movie, was that the only time you're allowed to look at masculine traits as a positive thing is if a woman does it. So these characters in Love Lies Bleeding are basically like dudes. They act like dudes. And they get to be like have integrity and strength, and like there's some sort of sense of honor to their relationship and what they're doing versus the men who are like these weak sniveling weasels that need their guns, their stupid guns and their stupid violence. So it was just something that it's just a trend out there. It's just, and Love Lies Bleeding is like the manifestation of it. Like that's all it is just that. Roadhouse. I did not love Roadhouse. I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world. It's kind of like I would put it in the same category as something like The Fall Guy. I think The Fall Guy was better. I liked The Fall Guy more than I liked Roadhouse, but I know a lot of people it's got its fans though. A lot of people enjoyed it. So
I do want to rewatch it at some point because there are a lot of aspects to it that I had fun. I think Doug Liman is a very competent director throughout his career, and someone like Conor McGregor, while I will not say he is a good actor.
No, he's fun.
But he's a lot of fun. He has a lot of just like screen presence and gives that movie like a little extra juice that I think would have otherwise been kind of bland, just in name only, because it's like, oh, we're remaking the Patrick Swayze movie. But
yeah, honestly, I kind of wish they had stuck to more of the old Patrick Swayze movie. Like, give it some edge. It's a very sanitized version of Roadhouse in a weird way.
Sure.
It's very slick.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just kind of bounced off of me. I just didn't really work for me.
It's also one of these examples where the plot doesn't really kick in until like halfway through, and you're just like, oh, now we're supposed to take this seriously or something like that. It's like it takes its time.
Because it's kind of like the original Roadhouse, where it's like kind of a hangout thing for a while, and we kind of get into it, and then. But at least in the original Roadhouse, they kind of start setting up the stakes pretty early.
Yeah,
they foreshadow it a little bit. And this one, you're right. It's just like this at the middle of the second act. They're like. Now the bad guy. Now this evil corporation wants to buy the old Roadhouse bar so they can do fucking Riverside property or something. I was like, okay, all right. Godzilla X Kong. I enjoy that vicariously through my son. It's not a good movie. Like I would not tell you here, sober-minded adult man, it is not a good movie. But if you have a kid, you have a little boy.
Sure,
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch it.
Yeah.
With them specifically. I would never watch this on my own. Like I would never put this on and watch it again on my own ever.
That's why I didn't go to see it, because I would have been stuck there on my lonesome, feeling embarrassed for myself and the people that made it. So I avoided it.
What else I got? Abigail. That was another Dan Stevens movie. Speaking of Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah.
Abigail is fine. It's entertaining. It's not great, but the characters are actually kind of fun. It's like too long, and And giving away the twist in the trailer was definitely a problem. Like, because the movie acts like you don't know for like 40 minutes when they told you in the trailer. And that's,
Yeah.
so it kind of takes the wind out of it. I don't know how you market that movie otherwise, to be honest with you, but it did negatively affect the movie. I watched David Cronenberg's daughter, her first movie, Humane.
Oh, I missed that one too. Yeah.
Humane was it's a very weird movie. I have a review of it on my letterbox if people want to check it out, because I kind of got into my deeper problems with the movie.
Right.
But yeah, you got to watch out for these bourgeois people. You know, they want to kill you.
Does
Just leave it there.
Does Caitlin Cronenberg? So does she do anything that's kind of different from like Brandon Cronenberg and David himself as well?
No.
No.
No, it's still pulling. It's definitely pulling from Dad's well.
Okay.
Not as good as Brandon.
Okay.
It's much more like it's like a low budget Canadian movie. Like Jay Baruchel's in it. He's actually really good in it. Who else? It's got a good cast actually. I really enjoy the cast. Jay Baruchel. I'm looking for his name. Peter Gallagher. He's also very good in it. Yeah, it's got like the actors and stuff, and it's got some good stuff, some good moral dilemmas, but it has the problem where it just doesn't really have a point of view.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, we can't just stand in judgment of these things, and maybe this is like a necessary component of society, is to, because the thing is, like, there's basically like food shortages and energy shortages and stuff, and people have to submit to a lottery to be killed. They have to cull the population. And it kind of makes an argument that there is a necessity to that, but people should just be nicer about it. And it was kind of like, I was like, wow, that's kind of dark, Caitlin. But Brandon does the same thing. It's like these disaffected fucking rich kids.
Yeah.
That like everything's an intellectual abstraction, and they like have no humanity themselves. Like, and it's really weird.
And they're like fully accepting of it. That's the other thing too. They're not even like giving up a
embrace
warning side. Yeah, yeah.
They embrace their sociopathic nature, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think Brandon Cronenberg, I don't think he's had a slam dunk. Possessor is the closest he's come to a slam dunk. That movie's dark as fuck. Infinity Pool is dark as fuck. It's just I don't think they're as deep as people purport them to be.
Right.
They're actually pretty straightforward what they're like getting at. And they're because it has that problem where the movie becomes about a singular focus, a singular idea, instead of a kind of a bunch of connected ideas. It'll just be about one thing.
Yeah.
And because Cronenberg movies, like, there's one central conceit, and then he has all of these tendrils that come from that central conceit that we explore.
Yeah.
They don't really do that in their movies. They kind of just barrel forward with like that one notion, and then we move forward to the next part where that one notion will take effect or affect the plot in some way, and then we move to the next part. It's just there's something simplistic and facile about it that is there's not a lot of complexity there.
Yeah, they're not as meticulous as what their dad's work has like built up to at this point, and we've talked about this before with Brandon Cronenberg stuff, but like they do run on just like a feeling or a sense of like like blind, weird, cryptic pleasure in something, that I don't know. It's just like they're
because they're intellectual abstractions, and they only understand them through like an intellectual pursuit. It's not informed by a life.
Yeah.
It's not informed by like David Cronenberg used genre and used his proclivities and interests to explore things about himself.
Yeah.
And when you see what like this crop of modern filmmakers, what they say about themselves is actually really gross. And I don't even know if they understand that, but what they're communicating to an audience is like some really like foul shit about themselves and their own like self-loathing. They all hate their fucking parents, it seems like, because that's like kind of the themes of all of these movies that have been coming out lately.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's depressing. It fucking bums me out.
Bums me out. Speaking of the People's Joker or something like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
If I ever finished it, it would probably be close to the bottom. And it's not even like, I appreciate the idea that somebody went out and like made a movie themselves and like had to use they use green screens. There's a lot of creative stuff in there, like a lot of, but it's got its head so far up his ass that it's just
Yeah.
I can't be on board with that. I can't do it. Austin says that stuff bums me out too. That's right. We're brothers, Austin. Me and you. All right, so let's both do one more good one.
One more good one. Okay. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I haven't really talked about this one at all, I think, in any sports space, but the movie The Beast with Lee Sedol. Um,
Oh yeah.
and our good old pal from Red Scare, Dasha Nekosova, is in it too.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah. No, I liked this one actually quite a bit. It's kind of because it plays it much more like a kind of cautionary, disconnected sort of tale, and
Mm-hmm.
less like we were just saying earlier with like the Cronenberg kids and just like, oh, let's just go have fun with it, and live
Yeah.
out our terrible like, lives. No, it takes place in the near future where emotions have become a threat, and Gabrielle finally decides to purify her DNA in a machine that will immerse her in her past lives and rid her of any strong feelings. And then she meets Lewis and feels a powerful connection, as if she had known him forever. Um, yeah, it's kind of like this cool, trippy experience into just like, I guess like, yeah, just in a weird way, like young kids trying to like rediscover like what love, affection, and friendship, as we brought up like earlier in this film, is again.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because it's got to
yeah,
be about the compulsion that it's
yeah,
inescapable. Like
yeah,
you can try to bore this stuff out of yourselves, but at some point, like you're gonna just not fall victim to it. It's just part
right,
of existence. It's part of what it means to be human, right?
yeah, yeah. I liked it though. I thought everybody did quite a good job. Some of the other cast members I definitely recognized in other things too. But there's like three specific like male archetypes that our main girl like runs into, and they kind of like play with those dynamics a little bit. Like um one's like very abusive, the other one's a little too soft, one of them's gay, and it's just like they play with different kinds of like relationships in that way.
Okay.
So I know I would say it's interesting.
I'll definitely want to check it out. I
Yeah,
actually really like Leah Sado, so
yeah,
ever since I saw her in the Color Blue or whatever, that another movie about lesbians being fetishized by a kind of a creepy director.
there you go.
Austin says, what's a feel good movie that made me feel happy to be alive? Stanley and Iris, De Niro and Jane Fonda from 1990. I don't think I've ever seen that movie. I'd check that out. I'd check it out. I'll check it out. I'm going to put it on the list, Austin. I'm going to watch it. Trebling says, I swear I thought Leah Sado and Florence Pugh were the same person in Dune Part 2. Oh,
Yes, yeah,
well, I guess they do have a little.
kind of,
It's the nose. They have a similar nose.
yeah.
Listen, Florence Pugh's my kind of crazy. Listen, okay, that girl's a nut, and I can fix her. I could fix her.
There's still time. There's still time. Yeah.
There's still time. I can fix her. The last movie I'll bring up, I guess, is well, I could talk about Civil War, but I didn't like Civil War, so I won't talk about that. Furiosa. I was
Oh yeah.
pleasantly surprised. I was very pleasantly surprised with Furiosa. I'll say this, just because we were talking about kind of big populist popcorn movies and stuff. I think Furiosa is probably the top of the heap for stuff like that because George Miller is just a good director,
Hmm.
somewhat of a thoughtful storyteller. He also understands to show and not tell. There's a lot of just like good world building, good
Hmm.
character work in here without having to do very much. Like he doesn't really belabor the point, and you just kind of get it. It's through just good casting, etc. But I was very pleasantly surprised because it ended up being way more of its own thing than I expected it to be. It has its own vibe. It has its own tone. It's kind of campy. It's fun. It's a very Australian movie. It's very kind of
Yes.
wild in that way, but with the big budget. I am bummed that it bombed. It deserved better than that.
Hmm.
I will say that for sure.
I do think in if there wasn't the amount of studio meddling that I'm sure was involved with the production of it, there was the potential for a really great Chris Hemsworth
Yes.
like tragedy sort of like film. Just like
Because I
him.
expected him
Yeah.
to. I expected him to be bad. I didn't think he looked bad in the
Yeah.
trailer,
Yeah.
and I saw the nose and stuff, and I was like, I don't know. And
Yeah.
then in the movie, it totally works.
Yeah.
100%. He's great in the movie, actually.
Yeah. But if he was leading it the whole way, if it wasn't a Furiosa prequel, if we weren't throwing in all the other callbacks to Fury Road, which we've already brought up plenty of times with Prophet and everybody,
Yeah.
that why? Yeah.
But it did. It
Yeah.
well, it just kind of mainly did that at the end, that
Yeah.
bridging scene, which I agree. It's just like, why do we do that? Like, I don't need to
Yeah.
do that. Like, I didn't need to see her look like Charlize Theron and then literally have Charlize Theron's voice dubbed over her voice. I didn't need that. That was
Yeah.
stupid. But it didn't lean into it as much as I thought it was going to. I mean, visually, obviously, there's connective tissue there because it's the same time period, the same part of the world, whatever you want to call it. But I was pleasantly surprised by like how much of its own thing and how much of its own path it struck. I didn't even find like the cameos from Fury Road that distracting or that much of a problem. I'm looking forward to watching it again. I know it just came out on 4K recently, so I'll probably pick it up at some point in the near future and give it another go. But yeah, pleasantly surprised by it. I thought it was, and I like Anya Taylor-Joy. I don't know. I mean, she's an alluring creature, and she's a good actress. There's worse people you could be stuck looking at for 2 hours than Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
Trembling says Florence Pugh is the hottest little fireplug shaped blonde since Hayden Panettiere. It's true. She does have some of that Hayden Panettiere energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although Hayden Panettiere seems like she'd be more wholesome. Like I feel like Florence Pugh is probably like legit kind of crazy.
I would think nowadays, because the last thing I saw Hayden in was Scream 6.
Six, yeah.
Yeah,
Scream
her
6,
character
yeah.
comes back.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Oh, did you hear that they may have worked out their issues with for Scream 7 with that actress, the free Palestine lady? I don't remember.
Are there is she now coming back or
I think she might be, and that maybe it'll be like because I think they already talked to Nev Campbell. Nev Campbell was already coming back now.
okay.
Because when they they had to reconceptualize whatever they were doing.
Uh-huh.
And I think they were gonna like bring Nev Campbell back as the star again.
Sure.
But yeah,
because I know Jenna Ortega like called some of them out too, saying that the reason why she wasn't coming back was for scheduling conflicts with Beetlejuice. But I think she was also saying like, yeah, but also this studio is like so politically correct right now too, so she's now jumping on the other side of it as well. It's like a weird little
I know. Yeah,
journalistic kind of, I don't know.
it's just they're too politically correct. Really?
Like,
are you
really?
fucking kidding me? Just because you have this pet peeve that's going on in the world, you've decided to give a fuck about something that's not your life for
Right.
once.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's a problem. Austin says Scream 5 was awful. I haven't seen 6. I can't even remember Scream 5, honestly.
It's
I don't
not
even
good.
remember what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember it. Scream 6, I remember being like, in the way that it's bad, I enjoy it,
Yeah.
but it's not good. But it's like it's kind of so stupid that it kind of turns the corner into being like enjoyable in kind of a meta way. I'm waiting for them to. I need to see Scream in space. I need to see that. That's what's going to
where
happen.
they're headed. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
where they got to do it. They got to do it.
If Leprechaun can do it, if Jason Voorhees can do it, Scream can do it. Yeah.
How did Freddy never go to space? How did we never get like a Nightmare on Elm Street where like it's just like a bunch of astronauts or whatever space colonizers out there on a long mission and they're in cryo sleep and it brings Freddy back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's like you just see like Freddy's face in the stars, like, oh, what's that sign? Like, I don't know, they just do something. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Fred Krueger. Who is this? They find it in the files.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
He was born on the moon.
Yeah. No, they just find files. They find files somewhere. Like, they can be salvagers and they they board a vessel and there's remnants of and I don't know, some cult has launched the remains of Freddy Krueger into space, and they happen upon them, and it starts the nightmare again,
Yeah.
just in space, which would just makes it cooler, right? Isn't that how it works?
That's what they'll call the new one, like Freddy in Space, the Dream Cult. There you go. Yeah.
There you go, Dream Cult. Yeah, Nightmare on
Yeah.
Elm Street 10. Is that where we're at? 11.
55.
Come on, we gotta bring him back one more time. We gotta get what's his name, the actor,
Robert Englund.
Robert
yeah.
Englund. Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta bring him back.
Yeah.
Signal Intrusion says, I think Hayden Panettiere got into a street brawl. Actually, I believe she did. She got into some physical altercation with a family member or something, and
Oh my
it made
gosh.
the news. Yeah, listen, you don't mess with Hayden Panettiere, okay? She's the cheerleader, okay? You ever watch Heroes? I watched the first season of Heroes. That's all I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Austin says, I finished Party of Five this year, Nev Campbell show. You know, that's a show I never really watched very much of. It was on when I was growing up, and I saw a couple episodes here and there. Usually I would see the end of episodes because I was going to watch something, whatever came on after. Like, whatever the new show Fox was trying to launch at the time would always be after Party of Five, because Party of Five was their juggernaut. So I would see the end of a lot of episodes while I was waiting for, like, the live-action Tick show to come on or something. Trumpick says, I seriously don't know why we've been so long without a Jason movie. Jason is evergreen. Oh, well, buddy, you got to go see In a Violent Nature, because that's who we got now. Okay?
Yeah, if you want to bore your eyes out,
Holy
watch
shit.
because it's quite a yeah.
It's bad. It's not
Yeah.
good. Well, I think most of the problem with Jason is the rights. The rights
Right,
holders, although I think recently I've heard something that is somewhat resolved, and maybe we'll see something in the near future, but
Yeah.
do we need another Jason movie? No. Oh, can we just start making new stuff, please? Can we just start a new era of things to endlessly sequelize for the next 30 years? We need like new IPs. We need new stuff to do for the next 40 years in entertainment.
And none of these Shudder originals. Like, do something
No.
just ballsy and different. Yeah.
I mean, like something like The Collector or something. Like, why wasn't that like embraced more? You know, there are examples of movies that have gone out there and tried it. You know, even like Malignant. Let's do this. Let's fucking keep rolling with Malignant. I'm down. Like I don't know. I think I'm in the minority, but I like Malignant because it's so wacky, it's so campy and silly that I just really enjoy it.
And it's not even like everyone always says like it doesn't get wacky until like the last like third of it or
That's
like no,
not
it's
true.
It's pretty wacky from the start, and that's
Dude,
how I was
like,
kind of treating it. Yeah.
The opening scene in the hospital.
Yeah.
Where he has all those great like big zoom ins and shit like that,
Yeah.
with people saying like, you know, horrific things like, we have to cut it out. Like, there's some great fun stuff in that movie. I think people went into that movie like taking it too seriously, and didn't mesh with like the tone and the vibe.
Mm-hmm. The whole time I was watching it too, I was thinking like, where was this James Wan back in the early 2000s? This is like kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you saw little sparks of that in something like Dead Silence.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Sure.
But anyways, I don't know. Do you have anything else? Any other ones you want to touch on before we bid everyone adieu?
I think I'm pretty good here. Nothing else that we haven't really touched on before. I put a couple short films on my list. I don't know if those are gonna like count like when I do my full on like best and worst of the year. But The Last Brunch is a pretty decent one by Jim Cummings. It's 11 minutes.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that making the rounds.
Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube right now. It's out there. I like Jim Cummings. I think he's more at his best when he's doing like his short film material, and he just has like a good network of friends that can like do monologues and just act very, very I don't know how to describe it. Just very hyper OCD. Just like
like him.
Yeah, like
Like
pretty
him.
much like him. Yeah.
I really like that werewolf one he did. The fuck was it called?
The Wolf of Snow Hollow, I think is what it's called.
I actually kind of enjoyed that one. I enjoyed that. I tried to watch his other one, the one he made about the affair agency or something.
Oh,
something game or something like that.
I
I'll
know. I
look it
think I
up.
know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name. It's not coming to me.
I like started it and never finished it, and I always meant to go back to it.
Yeah.
And I also Thunder Road was actually also pretty okay.
Thunder
Oh,
Road's great. Yeah.
the beta test.
The bait. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
The beta test. It was okay. It's his most indie feeling movie that I've seen of him. And if you like watching Jim Cummings play a complete asshole, like it's fun. It's fun for that. It's and I like he's trying new things though. I like it, and he
Mm-hmm.
mixes genres and he mixes comedy and horror and thrillers and mysteries, like all in the same kind of stories, and they have their own kind of unique verisimilitude and idiosyncrasies.
Oh,
And
sure.
I just enjoyed those. I've enjoyed it. So I'm glad to see whatever he does. So I'll definitely check out his short film.
I'll make like one final note here where, I've always just admired his prowess as a filmmaker and the things that he definitely the tips he provides and the way he kind of speaks for the little guy a little bit who's trying to get their film out there and
Yeah.
distributed or even seen. Like he's very down to earth in that respect, and I've always respected him in that.
Yeah.
I may not always agree with him on some things, but like he at least does think about like the up and coming yuppie filmmaker, and he still
Yes.
brings that quality to his stuff even to this day. So
Yeah, he's kind of got that because he's part of like David Gordon Green's circle,
yeah,
and they're all kind of like that. Actually,
hmm
they help people out all the time. Those
yeah,
guys. Trembling says, I need to watch Malignant now. Dude, I'm telling you, Trembling,
great.
because since you like camp, I know you're kind of a camp bro with like me and Prophet. I think you would definitely enjoy it. You just have to go in it with the right attitude, the right mindset. Like, it's not some horror masterpiece. It's like, it got giallo pastiches, and it's like a monster movie, and it's fun. And it's just
Yeah,
fun. And Austin agrees. He says Malignant is awesome. It's a fun
yep,
movie, dude.
yep.
I don't understand how you can watch Malignant and not like enjoy it on some level.
I don't
But
know how you could be mad at it. That's my thing. It's like, yeah, it's fun.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, like it's got the same problem a lot of James Wan movies has, where he has like good principal actors, and his secondary cast is always like the cops and stuff are always like the worst television style actors ever.
yeah,
And Malignant has that problem.
sure.
You're like, Jesus Christ. But anyways, I think we have gone super long, way longer than I
Yeah.
thought we were going to go. So we will bid you guys adieu tonight, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks for another episode of Goes to the Movies Live. I think we're going to be diving into tentatively, we're going to be diving into some Brad Jones stuff, I think. I think that's the plan.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
So we're going to go through, watch some Brad Jones movies, maybe watch one of them on stream with you guys for the second half of the show. So we'll do like an abbreviated Goes to the Movies, and then do like a watch and talk of one of Brad Jones's movies. It might be fun. But yeah, all right. Adios. See you later, everybody. Goodbye.
Take care.
Goodbye.